Hi guys, welcome to the guide. In this episode, we're just gonna do a quick briefing of the fuggliest, or at least one of the fuggliest planes of all time. The Consolidated PBY Catalina, also known as the Conso in Canada. It was a World War II long-range, more or less meant for like reconnaissance and just staying in the air forever. It had a range of 2,500 miles, which by World War II standards, especially by the beginning of World War II standards, was gigantic. It was used a lot in the Pacific, which is the world's biggest ocean, and it was used as an anti-sub in a sub-hunting role in the North Atlantic during the Battle of the North Atlantic, where German U-boats were just sinking cargo ships left and right. And it proved to be very good at that role. That was its mainstay during World War II, was just staying up in the air forever and looking for submarines, or its other secondary goal was to rescue downed pilots and seamen. So if a pilot was unlucky enough to get shot down over water, this was like that pilot's best friend to see. So you better make sure to have your flares handy just in case a Catalina shows up. It was first introduced in October 1936 in the U.S. Air Force, even though it wasn't called the Air Force there. I think it was like the Army Air Corps. I think that's what it was in 36. And was retired in January 1957 from U.S. military active service. It lived on in Brazil's Air Force until 1979, which is pretty impressive. So there's about a good 70 years at least of it flying around in the air after. And that's pretty good for a plane, especially in modern day standards. How many planes are still in military service 70 years after the fact? In 1935, which is 1 year before it was in service, it cost $90,000 to produce one. Imagine that. It's like cheaper than a house nowadays. You could have a flying boat pretty much for 90 grand back in the day. 3,305 were built over the course of its lifetime, and most of them were built during World War II. I mean, we just built a whole bunch of crap in World War II, and then once World War II was over, we had to sell it all. You could buy a P-51 Mustang after World War II. Like, man, why don't they do that nowadays? Buy P-51 Mustang for cheap. That'd be cool. I could like buy an F-15 nowadays. That'd be awesome. They'd still like went by that motto, which they don't. So yeah, the specs for the premier version of the Catalina, which is the PBY-5A, which is the premier version because it's the most ever built, and I think like 800 of them were built. And it had a crew of 10, which is pretty impressive considering that it was only 63 feet long and had a wingspan of 104 feet. Its service ceiling was only 16,000 feet, which was for its job because it was meant to stay not too high. It was meant to stay low and spot submarines and aircraft crews that pretty much got shot out of the sky. Its top speed was 196 miles per hour, which even by the beginning of World War II standards was pathetic. It cruised at 125 miles per hour though, which is what it was meant to do. It was not meant to go fast. It was meant to just cruise around, which gave it its range of 2,500 miles, which is a really impressive range. And it also had two Pratt & Whitney engines that each pumped out 1,200 horsepower each. So it had some power. It just had a lot of drag too, apparently. It was armed with 250 caliber machine guns in its waist, both like sticking out the side of the fuselage, pointing in each direction, which its distinct waist blisters is what they call them. They're just like teardrop shapes things that stick out of the side of the fuselage, which the early B-17 has them too, but they quickly kind of just disappeared and they stopped using them. You can kind of see them right there. And then it had 3 30 caliber machine guns, 2 in the nose, and then 1 sticking out of the bottom of the tail, I'm guessing, is the only place I could think it would be. But yeah, even at the beginning of World War II, like 30 caliber machine guns were outdated. Like, that's like a pea shooter for airplanes. Yeah, it's about the same size bullet as the M1 Garand shot. Well, it is the same size bullet, but it probably had a different powder charge behind it. But yeah, like imagine shooting an M1 Garand, a fully automatic M1 Garand at an airplane, and how little effect that's going to have. Unless you hit that plane just right. It has to be just right. That's not going to do crap. So its armament was kind of laughable, and in a real dogfight against, not even a dogfight, if a fighter plane found it, it didn't have much of a chance. It was kind of SOL. And it also had enough room to carry 4,000 pounds worth of explosives. So that'd be bombs, depth charges, usually probably depth charges if it was hunting submarines, or torpedoes, but mostly depth charges, I'm pretty sure, because its main occupation during the war was a submarine hunter. That's what I was most successful at. And like, I don't know, this is just some gameplay of it. I got excited at the beginning of this gameplay too, because I was like, oh, I can go attack some ships. And I ran over there, and then I got jumped by 2 enemy planes. But luckily enough, I actually won that, which I was amazed. I was pretty sure I was getting shot down. And then by the time I got down there to take out those ships, a friendly P-40 had already done the job, and I just sat there looking at him. But in real life, that's what it was there for. It was a good, awesome anti-sub hunter, because it could just loiter. It could just chill up in the air for a long time. And then if it needed to, it was a flying boat, so it could just land on the water, chill out for a while, and then take off again. So this thing could be out for days on end if it really wanted to be. But yeah, it just had awesome endurance. That was really what set it apart. That was its claim to fame. It just had some crazy awesome endurance. And it was any downed pilot who was unfortunate enough to go down over the water. It was his best friend to see just chilling out. That's because it could just fly on right up next to him and, hey, so I see you're in some trouble there. Yeah? Yeah, you lost that dogfight, did you? Yeah? Yeah? Well, I guess welcome aboard. You owe me a beer whenever we get back. And the pilot would be like, okay. But yeah, I don't know, that's a quick briefing, intro. I don't know, but just kind of ramble on about the PBY Catalina. It rates pretty high on the fugly meter, but it did its job, and it did it very well. Yeah, I think that's about enough rambling for one day. Alright, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, because I don't know. Just do it.